Welcome to HFY Stories. If you're ready for jaw-dropping stories and a universe full of excitement, hit that subscribe button like it's the big red button in a space opera. Give us a like if you're feeling that interstellar vibe and comment below to join the conversation. We want to hear from you. Yes, you, the spacefarer with a great story idea or just a fan of epic human victories. The Awakening. The Galactic Alliance, a coalition of powerful and ancient civilizations, had long maintained peace across the stars. Their dominance was unchallenged, their technology unparalleled. Among the most feared weapons in their arsenal was the ability to isolate and neutralize any species that posed a threat. Humanity, still young and naive, had been deemed a minor species, their technological advancements impressive but unremarkable on a cosmic scale. They were allowed to expand within the confines of their solar system, never to venture beyond. But something unexpected happened. Humanity discovered FTL travel. It wasn't just a scientific breakthrough, it was a leap that defied the natural order. The Alliance watched with growing concern as humans began to colonize distant stars, pushing the boundaries of their limited knowledge. The Alliance's High Council convened to discuss the implications of this newfound human ability. The decision was unanimous. Humanity had to be contained. A fleet of ships was dispatched, led by Admiral Tharok, a seasoned warrior with a reputation for swift and decisive action. His mission was clear: ensure that humanity never left its corner of the galaxy. The fleet arrived at the edge of human space, deploying a series of energy barriers that effectively cut off FTL travel. On Earth, the sudden disruption of their new travel technology threw governments into chaos. Scientists scrambled to understand the phenomenon, while military leaders prepared for the worst. Unbeknownst to them, a group of elite soldiers had already been mobilized. Known as the Sleeping Giant, they were humanity's best-kept secret. Warriors genetically enhanced and trained to perfection, with a single purpose: to protect humanity at all costs. Commander Elena Marquez, leader of the Sleeping Giant, received her orders in the dead of night. The message was simple: you have been activated. She knew what it meant. She and her team had trained for this moment, but the gravity of the situation was daunting. They were up against an enemy far beyond anything they had ever faced. As the Sleeping Giant prepared for their mission, tensions on Earth continued to rise. The energy barriers had cut off vital supplies to the newly established colonies, and panic was spreading. It was only a matter of time before the situation boiled over into open conflict. In the depths of space, Admiral Tharok monitored the situation from his flagship, the Imperator. He was confident in his strategy. The humans would be contained, their ambitions crushed before they could become a real threat. What he didn't anticipate was the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. Elena and her team launched their first mission, a covert operation to breach the energy barrier and gather intelligence on the enemy fleet. They were a small unit, but they were equipped with the best technology humanity had to offer. As their ship approached the barrier, Elena felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for their entire lives. The ship shuddered as it passed through the barrier. Alarms blared as the energy field tried to tear them apart, but their shields held. On the other side, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The Alliance fleet was massive, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. But they were undeterred. They had a mission, and they would see it through. As they scanned the enemy fleet, they noticed something strange. The ships were arranged in a tight formation, as if anticipating an attack. But there was no sign of hostility. In fact, the Alliance ships seemed to be in a defensive stance. Elena's heart raced as she realized what it meant. The Alliance wasn't just containing humanity, they were preparing for something else, something even more dangerous. Elena transmitted the data back to Earth, but before they could return, their ship was detected. Alliance fighters swarmed toward them, and a fierce battle ensued. The sleeping giant fought with all their might, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Just as it seemed they would be overwhelmed, an unexpected ally appeared. A lone human ship, heavily modified and bristling with weapons, emerged from the darkness. It was unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen, a testament to humanity's ingenuity. The ship opened fire, cutting through the Alliance fighters with precision. Elena didn't know who was piloting it, but she knew they had just saved their lives. With the enemy fighters in disarray, Elena ordered a retreat. They had gathered the intelligence they needed, and now it was time to regroup. As they made their way back to Earth, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something much bigger than they had anticipated. The Alliance was preparing for war, but against whom? And what role would humanity play in the coming conflict? The unseen enemy. The data Elena's team gathered sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. The revelation that the Alliance fleet was not merely containing humanity, but preparing for an unknown threat changed everything. The sleeping giant had done their job, but their mission was far from over. The enemy they now faced was not just the Alliance. It was something far more sinister. Back on Earth, scientists worked around the clock to analyze the data. What they discovered was alarming. Strange energy signatures, far more powerful than anything in the Alliance's arsenal, had been detected near the edge of known space. These signatures corresponded with regions where entire star systems had gone dark, their inhabitants vanishing without a trace. The Alliance, it seemed, was preparing for an invasion. The question that loomed over everyone was simple. Who, or what, was responsible for these disappearances? Elena was summoned to a top-secret briefing with Earth's most powerful leaders. The room was filled with generals, politicians, and scientists, all wearing grim expressions. As she entered, the President of Earth, a stern woman named Laura Hayes, stood and addressed the room. "We are facing an existential threat," President Hayes began. "The Alliance is preparing for war against an enemy we know nothing about. If they fall, humanity will be next. We must prepare for the worst, and we must do it quickly." The briefing continued, outlining a plan to bolster Earth's defenses and prepare for a potential Alliance invasion. But Elena knew that wasn't enough. They needed to understand the enemy they were facing, and that meant taking the fight to them. She proposed a daring plan, a reconnaissance mission deep into the uncharted regions of space where the energy signatures had been detected. The goal was to gather intelligence and, if possible, identify the enemy. The room fell silent as the leaders considered her proposal. It was risky, perhaps even suicidal, but it was their best shot at getting ahead of the looming threat. After a tense few moments, President Hayes nodded. "You have my approval, Commander Marquez. Gather your team and make it happen." Elena wasted no time. She assembled the sleeping giant, briefing them on the mission and the potential dangers they faced. There was no hesitation among her team. They were ready to do whatever it took to protect humanity. Their ship, the Vanguard, was outfitted with the latest stealth technology, designed to evade detection by even the most advanced sensors. As the Vanguard prepared to launch, Elena had a moment of quiet reflection. She thought of her family, her friends, and the life she had left behind. There was no guarantee she would return, but she had made peace with that. This was her duty, and she would see it through to the end. The Vanguard slipped into the void of space, its engines humming softly as it accelerated toward the unknown. The journey was long and tense, every moment filled with anticipation and dread. As they neared the edge of known space, the strange energy signatures began to intensify. The ship's sensors struggled to make sense of the data, but one thing was clear: something was out there, and it was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. The Vanguard had been detected. Before Elena could react, they were surrounded by a fleet of ships, their designs alien and terrifying. These were not Alliance ships. They were something else, something ancient and malevolent. The alien ships opened fire, and the vanguard shuddered under the impact. Elena's team sprang into action, returning fire and attempting to evade their attackers. But the alien ships were relentless, their weapons far more advanced than anything humanity had ever seen. The vanguard was taking heavy damage, and it was only a matter of time before they were overwhelmed. In the chaos, Elena noticed something strange. The alien ships were not attacking to destroy. They were disabling the vanguard. It was as if they wanted the humans alive. Realizing this, Elena ordered her team to stop firing. The alien ships closed in, and the vanguard was forcibly docked with the largest of the alien vessels. Elena and her team prepared for the worst, but what they encountered was beyond anything they could have imagined. As the airlock opened, they were greeted by a being of immense power and intelligence, its presence overwhelming. It spoke in a language that resonated in their minds, bypassing the need for translation. "Welcome, humans," the being said, its voice echoing through their thoughts. "We are the architects, and your galaxy is in grave danger." The architects explained that they were an ancient race, older than the Alliance itself, tasked with maintaining balance in the universe. But something had gone wrong. An ancient enemy, long thought to be defeated, had reawakened. This enemy, known as the Voidborn, was responsible for the disappearances of entire star systems. They were a force of pure destruction, and they were coming for the galaxy. Elena listened in stunned silence. The architects needed help, and they had chosen humanity for a reason. The Voidborn had a weakness, one that humanity might be able to exploit. But time was running out. The Alliance was preparing for war, unaware of the true enemy they faced. If humanity didn't act, the galaxy would fall. Elena made a decision. They would return to Earth with this knowledge, but they would also prepare for the coming war. Humanity would not stand idly by while the galaxy burned. They would fight, and they would survive. The reluctant Alliance. The return journey from the architect's ship was fraught with tension. Elena Marquez and her team, aboard the battered vanguard, carried not only the weight of their injuries, but also the monumental knowledge of the impending threat. The Voidborn were not just a threat to the Alliance. They were a threat to the entire galaxy. Earth had to prepare, and quickly. Upon arrival back at Earth, the data was immediately shared with the highest levels of government. President Laura Hayes convened an emergency session with the military and scientific leaders to discuss the implications. The revelations from the architects were staggering. It was clear that humanity's role was far more crucial than anyone had imagined. "We need to prepare for an invasion," President Hayes announced to the Assembly. "The Voidborn are a menace beyond anything we faced. But more than that, we need to convince the Alliance to join us against this common enemy." The Alliance, despite its overwhelming military might, had been isolated and insular, content to monitor threats from afar. They had no reason to believe in the reality of the Voidborn, and convincing them would be no small feat. The task fell to Commander Marquez, who had to navigate not only interstellar politics, but also the fragile trust between species. Elena's first step was to make contact with Admiral Tharok. The Alliance's leader had been an adversary, but in the face of a universal threat, old enmities needed to be set aside. The communication channels were tense, but a meeting was arranged on the neutral ground of a space station orbiting a remote star. As the Vanguard approached the station, Elena prepared for a delicate negotiation. She knew that her every word and action would be scrutinized. The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. The space station was a marvel of Alliance engineering, a sprawling structure with an aura of cold efficiency. Admiral Tharok awaited her arrival in a sleek conference room, his demeanor as formidable as ever. The meeting began with a stunning silence, the air thick with distrust. Elena presented the evidence, the Voidborn's capabilities, the destruction they had wrought, and the urgency of the threat. Tharok listened intently, his expression inscrutable. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "Your story is compelling, Commander," Tharok said slowly. But we have seen many claims of cosmic threats. Why should we believe this is different? Elena took a deep breath. Because we have proof. The architects are a race older than any we've encountered. Their knowledge is unparalleled. They have fought the Voidborn before, and they are the only ones who can guide us in defeating them. But we need to act now. Tharok's gaze was piercing. And what guarantee do we have that your people will not use this alliance to further their own interests? The question was valid. Humanity's rapid expansion and technological advancements had not been without controversy. Elena had to address it head-on. We have no such interest, Elena replied firmly. Our goal is survival. We have seen the destruction firsthand. If we don't unite against the Voidborn, there will be nothing left to fight over. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. He understood the gravity of the situation but was not easily swayed. I will consult with the High Council. But understand this, any alliance between us will be contingent on mutual trust and verification of your claims. The meeting ended on a cautious note, with no immediate agreement but a glimmer of hope. Elena and her team returned to Earth, their mission far from complete. The Alliance's decision would take time, and in the meantime, humanity had to prepare for the worst. Back on Earth, preparations began in earnest. The military bolstered its defenses, scientists worked on understanding the Voidborn's weaknesses, and a global effort was launched to coordinate with the Alliance. The sleeping giant was mobilized for potential combat. Their training intensified as they prepared for a conflict that could decide the fate of the galaxy. In the midst of this, Elena found herself drawn into an unexpected relationship. Dr. Alex Reed, a brilliant scientist working on the Voidborn research, had been part of the team that analyzed the architect's data. Their professional interactions soon developed into a deep and personal connection. Their shared sense of urgency and purpose created a bond that transcended the chaos around them. But time was running out. The Alliance's response was slow, and the Voidborn's approach was imminent. The final stages of preparation were underway when a distress signal came from an outer colony, a harbinger of the Voidborn's arrival. Elena and her team rushed to the colony, only to find it devastated. The Voidborn had arrived, and their destruction was absolute. The sight was a sobering reminder of the stakes involved. The Alliance had to be convinced, and humanity had to be ready. There was no more time for doubt or hesitation. The battle against the Voidborn had begun. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and every decision made from this point forward would determine whether humanity, and all they held dear, would survive. The call to arms. In the wake of the devastating attack on the outer colony, Elena Marquez knew that their next moves had to be decisive. The Voidborn had made their presence known, and their destructive power was terrifying. The Alliance's slow response was becoming a critical issue, and humanity's window to prepare was rapidly closing. Elena had to act quickly to ensure that the Alliance would join the fight, and that humanity would be ready for the inevitable confrontation. The first priority was to convince the Alliance to commit fully to the war effort. Elena returned to the space station to meet with Admiral Tharok and the High Council. The recent attack on the outer colony had left no room for doubt about the Voidborn's threat. The evidence she brought, combined with the devastating reports from the colony, had to be compelling enough to spur the Alliance into action. The meeting was tense. Tharok and the Council members, while acknowledging the gravity of the threat, remained cautious. They were wary of committing their forces without a clear strategy. Elena presented the latest data, including first-hand accounts from the survivors of the attack. She spoke passionately about the need for a united front and the urgency of the situation. Admiral Tharok, the Voidborn are not just a threat to the Alliance. They are a threat to every sentient being in the galaxy, Elena said, her voice steady but filled with determination. If we do not act now, the Voidborn will destroy everything we've built. We need your help. We need to combine our forces and strategies to stand a chance against them. Tharok listened, his expression unreadable. After a long silence, he spoke. "Your argument is compelling, Commander. The evidence you've presented is undeniable. However, the High Council must deliberate before making a decision." Elena nodded, understanding the need for caution, but feeling the weight of the urgency. "I appreciate your consideration. We will be ready to assist in any way necessary." With the meeting adjourned, Elena returned to Earth, where preparations continued in earnest. The military was mobilizing, and scientists were working around the clock to develop new technologies and strategies to combat the Voidborn. Dr. Alex Reed, Elena's partner, was deeply involved in analyzing the Voidborn's patterns and weaknesses, working closely with other scientists to find a way to counter their devastating capabilities. The days stretched into weeks, each one marked by growing tension and a sense of impending doom. The Alliance's decision was slow in coming, but every piece of intelligence gathered from the attacks provided more evidence of the Voidborn's threat. Elena and her team continued their preparations, training relentlessly and fortifying their defenses. Then, a breakthrough came. Dr. Reed discovered a potential vulnerability in the Voidborn's technology, a flaw in their energy shields that could be exploited. It wasn't a guarantee of victory, but it was a glimmer of hope. With this information, Elena was able to advocate more effectively for a united front with the Alliance. The Alliance's High Council finally convened to make their decision. The council chambers were filled with tension as the members debated the merits of joining forces with humanity. Elena, along with Tharok, addressed the council, presenting the new data and emphasizing the necessity of a coordinated effort. "Your decision affects not just your people, but every sentient being in this galaxy," Elena said. "The Voidborn are coming, and they will not discriminate between allies and enemies. We must unite now, or face annihilation." The council deliberated long into the night. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Finally, a consensus was reached. The Alliance would join forces with humanity, combining their military might and technological expertise to confront the Voidborn. The announcement was met with both relief and apprehension. The Alliance and humanity were now allies, bound by a common purpose. The preparations for war intensified as the combined forces worked to coordinate their strategies and integrate their technologies. The first joint military exercise was a critical test of their new alliance. It involved simulated battles against Voidborn forces, designed to practice coordination and strategy. The exercise was grueling, pushing both human and Alliance forces to their limits. But it was also an opportunity to identify weaknesses and refine their tactics. Elena's role in the exercise was pivotal. Her leadership and experience were crucial in ensuring that the human forces could integrate seamlessly with their new allies. Dr. Reed, alongside Alliance scientists, continued to work on refining the technology that could exploit the Voidborn's vulnerability. As the final battle plans were formulated, Elena and Alex grew closer. Their shared experiences and the stress of the impending conflict deepened their bond. It became clear that their relationship was not just a source of personal strength, but also a symbol of the unity and collaboration that was necessary to confront the Voidborn. With the preparations complete and the alliance in place, the time came for the final assault. The combined fleet of humanity and the Alliance prepared to face the Voidborn in a confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The stakes were high, and the outcome uncertain, but one thing was clear: the fight for survival was about to begin. The final stand. The galaxy held its breath as the combined fleet of humanity and the Alliance prepared for the ultimate confrontation with the Voidborn. The stakes were unimaginably high, and the outcome was uncertain. The Voidborn's advance was relentless, and the time for decisive action had arrived. Elena Marquez, now a central figure in the Joint Command, stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, overseeing the final preparations. The fleet, a formidable assembly of human and Alliance ships, was poised at the edge of the Voidborn's territory. Every ship, every crew member, was ready for the fight of their lives. Dr. Alex Reed, alongside the Alliance scientists, had successfully integrated the technology to exploit the Voidborn's energy shield vulnerability. The new weapon systems were installed on the fleet, and the tactical plans were set. The final assault would involve a coordinated strike aimed at the Voidborn's command ship, which was believed to be the source of their power. As the fleet approached the heart of the Voidborn's territory, the tension was palpable. Elena and Alex exchanged a final, lingering look, a mix of determination and fear. They knew that the outcome of this battle would determine not just their fate, but the fate of every sentient being in the galaxy. The moment of truth arrived. The Voidborn fleet, a terrifying array of dark, imposing vessels, emerged from the shadows. The battle began with a thunderous explosion as the human and Alliance forces engaged the Voidborn in a fierce and chaotic conflict. The Voidborn's ships, with their dark energy weapons and formidable shields, proved to be a formidable adversary. Elena's tactical skills were put to the test as she directed the human forces in the heat of battle. The combined fleet worked in unison, launching coordinated attacks and countering the Voidborn's aggressive tactics. The newly developed weapons targeted the Voidborn's shield vulnerabilities, creating opportunities for the fleet to strike critical blows. The battle raged on, with casualties mounting on both sides. The Voidborn's relentless assault threatened to overwhelm the Allied forces. In the midst of the chaos, Elena and her team fought bravely, their actions pivotal in turning the tide of the battle. Their determination and courage inspired the fleet, pushing them to fight harder against the overwhelming odds. As the battle reached its climax, Elena identified the opportunity to strike at the heart of the Voidborn fleet, the command ship. She led a daring mission, flying directly into the heart of the enemy formation. The command ship was heavily guarded, and the risk was immense, but it was the only way to ensure a decisive victory. With precise coordination and a fierce determination, Elena and her team breached the command ship's defenses. They fought their way through the corridors, finally reaching the core of the ship. The weapon systems they had developed were activated, targeting the Voidborn's control center. The energy beams cut through the Voidborn's defenses, striking the core and causing a massive explosion. The destruction of the command ship was a critical blow to the Voidborn fleet. The remaining Voidborn ships, now leaderless and in disarray, began to retreat. The tide of the battle turned, and the Allied forces seized the opportunity to press their advantage. As the Voidborn fleet withdrew, the Allied forces celebrated their hard-won victory. The battle had been fierce, and the cost had been high, but the combined strength of humanity and the Alliance had prevailed. The galaxy had been saved from the brink of annihilation. In the aftermath of the battle, Elena and Alex stood together, looking out at the stars. The conflict had left its mark, but there was also a sense of hope and renewal. The Alliance and humanity had forged a bond that transcended their differences, and the victory was a testament to their unity and resilience. The architects, observing from afar, commended the Allied forces for their bravery and effectiveness. They were pleased to see that the galaxy had come together to confront the Voidborn threat. With the Voidborn defeated, the architects offered their assistance in rebuilding and strengthening the galaxy's defenses. Elena and Alex, along with their teams, began the process of recovery and rebuilding. The war had changed them, but it had also brought them closer. Their relationship, forged in the crucible of conflict, was a symbol of the new era of cooperation and understanding. The galaxy, once on the brink of destruction, began to heal. The Alliance and humanity worked together to ensure that the Voidborn threat would never return. New technologies and strategies were developed to safeguard against future threats, and the bond between the two civilizations grew stronger. In the end, the sleeping giant had not only defended humanity, but had also played a crucial role in uniting the galaxy against a common enemy. The victory was hard-earned, but it paved the way for a future where cooperation and unity would be the cornerstones of a thriving galaxy. The stars, once filled with the shadow of impending doom, now shone brightly with the promise of peace and prosperity. Humanity and the Alliance, bound by their shared experiences and struggles, looked toward the future with hope and determination. The sleeping giant had awoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.